It's always nice to see scientific accuracy in movies like this. The uneven bars really are the most effective way to take down a dinosaur. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. As part of my Jurassic Park franchise review series, today I'm going to be talking about the 1997 action thriller, The Lost World: Jurassic Park. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All of my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all the extra content. The Lost World: Jurassic Park stars Jeff Goldblum, Julianne, and Pete Postlethwaite, and was directed by Steven Spielberg. Based on Michael Crichton's 1995 novel, The Lost World, and set 4 years after the events of the first movie, it tells the story of Dr. Ian Malcolm as he joins an expedition to document dinosaur behavior in a natural environment. Jurassic Park was a story and film that didn't really need a sequel. Much like the island on which it was set, it was self-contained. It was a compact yet thought-provoking story that felt satisfyingly complete and avoided any blatant sequel setup. But just because it didn't need a sequel didn't mean we didn't want one. And just because it was a contained story with no ending cliffhanger didn't mean it didn't leave itself open for the possibility of a sequel. The Lost World is fairly unique in film sequelhood, because it's actually based on a sequel book. After the success of the first novel and the film, Michael Crichton wrote a follow-up, knowing full well that it would be made into a movie. In this novel, he took the story in a bit of an unusual and unintuitive direction, and the film version took a few more liberties than it had with the first adaptation, but even so, it was a story with potential. This film abandons the shaving cream can MacGuffin loose end left temptingly dangling from the first film, and instead opts to focus on a different angle of the story altogether. Rather than trying to contain and monetize, the goal here is preservation without human interference. Of course, there are those in the story who disagree with this more ecological mindset and would prefer to take John Hammond's ideas from the first film to new and even more dangerous extremes. This actually sets up a compelling set of competing interests for the central conflict of the story, but is unfortunately unable to capitalize on them in any particularly interesting way. The Lost World features a much larger cast than the first one, but a much less interesting one. Aside from 3 brief cameos early in the film, Dr. Ian Malcolm is the only returning character. Jeff Goldblum's reprisal offers some of the same entertaining, sarcastic commentary, and he does have good chemistry with Julianne, who plays his behavioral paleontologist girlfriend Sarah, but he's not quite as strong here. Most of the other main characters from Jurassic Park have stand-in equivalents here too. The greedy antagonist, the snarky side character, the kid in danger, and while none of them are bad, they just aren't as easy to connect with, which makes it difficult to care when they're in dinosaur danger. Speaking of which, these characters are in danger a lot. The first Jurassic Park was a film of 2 tonal halves. The first half was a sci-fi what-if fantasy, full of amazement and wonder, whereas the second half dove into action, thrills, and a decent dose of horror. The sequel loses much of the wonder of the first film. Perhaps it's because we and our main character already have experience with seeing dinosaurs up close, but there's something less wondrous about this film, and something quite a bit darker too, both figuratively and literally. This movie features a lot of nighttime scenes, and it has a heavy action horror focus once the second act gets underway. The dinosaurs have legitimate reasons for their numerous attacks, so much like the first film, they aren't the villains of the story, but they're certainly painted that way a bit more here. Despite their tonal presentation, the dinosaurs are great here. There's more CGI than last time, and the quality of that CG work varies a bit. An early Stegosaurus shot is composited in a noticeably strange way, whereas an iconic Compy sequence looks great. But once again, the dinosaurs really shine when they're practical effects. There were some noticeable advancements with the animatronic puppetry, including the development of an entirely self-contained remote-controlled baby T-Rex that could be picked up and carried around by the actors. That baby T-Rex is the effect star, but we're also treated to some more baby dinos, as well as a pair of extremely unhappy parents. The The Lost World was a movie that had a lot of potential. Some interesting behavioral ecology ideas, expansion on some of the themes from the previous film, and of course, the opportunity to see dinosaurs outside of the confines of Jurassic Park. But this film largely squanders all of that potential. It's okay as a horror-tinged action movie, full of intense and memorable action set pieces that definitely entertain, but the meat of the actual story is weak and a bit convoluted, making it nearly impossible to bind the film together as a cohesively good movie. Instead, it leaves you wishing you had opted to just watch the first movie again, and it also leaves you wondering why these people just never learn. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. The biggest pro here is one that is shared with its predecessor, the practical effects. All the special effects had come a long way in a short few years, but it's the practical dinosaurs that really shine here. The animatronic and puppeteered dinos look just as real as ever, and all the scenes featuring interactions with these lifelike creatures are among the best in the film. The baby Stegosaurus, the adult T-Rexes, and even the practical compies are great, but nothing can top the baby T-Rex. Not only is he adorable, and the focus of the most interesting and compelling storyline in the film, but he was also a fascinating technical achievement, a self-contained blend of hydraulics and robotics that could be remotely operated and shown entirely in frame. On the con side, the biggest issue is the story. Don't get me wrong, it had a lot of potential, and actually had quite a few really interesting sequences. Unfortunately, the film ends up being a series of fairly well-done action set pieces, with very little substance binding them together. The initial premise and setup is a strangely convoluted continuation of the first film, but then the interesting observational and ecological aspects that are set up in the first act are abandoned in favor of a more brash and lazy plot. Frustratingly few lessons seem to have been learned from the events of the first film, even by our returning characters, and everything is just lacking in that awe-inspiring wonder that made the first movie so interesting and resonant. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying The Lost World, Jurassic Park, or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give The Lost World, Jurassic Park 2.5 out of 5 paws. It features some nice practical effects, and is decent as action horror entertainment, but it doesn't have any of the wonder or thematic depth of its predecessor, which makes it an underwhelming follow-up. I would recommend The Lost World Jurassic Park to people who prefer a more action horror-tinged Jurassic Park film. It's still got some great-looking dinosaurs, and a few returning characters, at least briefly, but feels quite different tonally. So if you thought that the original film was a bit too bright and cheery for your tastes, then the intensity of this one might be more up your alley. People who've never seen the original Jurassic Park may also have a better shot of enjoying this one, but big fans of that original will likely be underwhelmed. If you liked The Lost World, Jurassic Park, I've obviously gotta recommend Jurassic Park. This was the film that kicked off the Jurassic Park franchise and is easily the best of the pack, expertly blending multiple genres, wonder, and thrills to create something truly special. If you want another Jurassic Park franchise film, you might want to watch Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. It's the second film of the Jurassic World trilogy, and also features some greedy people who obviously don't remember the San Diego catastrophe. And if you're interested in another creature film revolving around an animal taken from its habitat, you should check out the original King Kong. There are a number of similarities, including many of the story beats of the third act. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen The Lost World, Jurassic Park? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie featuring characters who don't learn from their mistakes? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainely Movies, the way life should be.